Welcome to the West County ACA Speaker Series, recorded in St. Louis, Missouri. We meet every Thursday as a literature discussion, and the first week of the month is our ACA Speaker Meeting. Speakers are asked to share their story and one tool they find most useful in their ACA recovery. If you'd like to contact us, email westcounty@acastl.org. We hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name's Crystal. I'm a fellow traveler. My perception has changed, I guess I should say, than back then. First off, a disclaimer, especially for new people, I use the word God in substitution for higher power, and that's just a generic term I like. It doesn't mean that you guys have to follow along or anything. I just like to be respectful to any and all ideas of higher powers out there. For me, it's just a quick and easy little word to talk about my all-encompassing, huge higher power. And I think it's just important because I know when I was new, I didn't want to hear anything about God or religion. And thank God, thank my higher power that this is a spiritual program and not, anything I have to adhere to. For just to qualify real quick, I was born into a family of human beings that were pretty incapable of doing a lot of things, but did their best with what they had. And I can say that with truth today. One of the gifts I've learned in here is that I can hold two truths, and they can both be true. They did do the best they could, and it did affect me and how I react to the world as an adult. So it's just one of the awesome gifts I've been given here. I will refer to my male parent figure as stepdad and dad because I knew him as dad and found out later that he wasn't my dad. So when I use that word, it's the same dude. It's just we got some different titles going on until I figure this stuff out. So I was born, and my father had two boys from a previous marriage. My mom had a daughter from a previous marriage. There was me. And then they had my little brother. A lot of chaos immediately off the bat. I have memories of my parents coming home drunk, left with babysitters a lot. I remember my dad puking in a washing machine. I remember being sexually abused somewhere between 5 and 8. I don't recall the exact age or anything. Just a lot of chaos going on. Got into another house. My parents simmered down a little, and my dad was working at the steel mill. I don't know if he always did, but I recall him working there and working shift work. And so there was a lot of being quiet during the day while he was on midnights. Basically, our house revolved around him. He was very much the center of our family. As we got older, went into teenage years, I started shutting down pretty hard. I didn't talk a lot because every time I got asked something, it was I was either wrong or I got made fun of. I just learned to just quit asking questions, and my parents kind of respected that in turn. They didn't ask me nothing, and we really just kind of started my adolescent period with that off the bat. And I really felt I was smarter than them, and in some ways I think I was. As I started to go out into the world, I would learn things, and I'd come back home, and that wasn't what was being taught at home. I would go to church with some family members, and I'd come back home, and that wasn't what was going on in our house. They stayed in their bedroom a lot around my teenage years. Also, when my stepdad got diagnosed with schizophrenia, I didn't know that at the time either. I just knew they went into their bedrooms, and they didn't want to come out. They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to do anything. So I kind of took on the parentified role and started taking care of my little brother, making sure he got up for school. I would go to school, come home. I got a job. I was working. If I wasn't at work, I was in sports. I was pretty much just took off full steam ahead doing grown-up stuff and trying to be a good teenager also. Not that I was a great child. I mean, I did my things and I got in some trouble. But overall, I still had this, felt like I had this burden, I needed to save everybody. Even though I didn't know that's what it was called then. I just knew, okay, I got to work harder. I got to be everything that my brothers and sisters weren't, because they were average students, got in fights. Oh, then there was always chaos in the house. And it was and And that was what was okay with everybody. I wasn't okay with that. And so I would go and run with my headphones on. Music was a great escape for me. I'd put my headphones on. If I had to be in the house for anything, to do dishes, it was kind of like, I don't have to hear you guys anymore. I could put my headphones on. And sports also gave me that outlet. I could go and be. And once I started getting attention, then it created a new problem for me, because then people were like, well, where's your parents? And I'd be like, how do you answer that? Like, I don't know. I would just say they were sick, and that became my answer. And then when I come home, my parents would ask, well, what'd you do? I don't know. Like, it was this constant battle of, like, not knowing what to say and when to say it and where to say it at. And then trying to pick up on how to live life through just really observing other people, like, and too afraid to ask for help. Oh, yeah, that was going to be my tool tonight. I went through, like, many of them, but after the week I had, I decided to talk about asking for help. It was never something that was ever occurred to me back then, because I was a teenager, and I thought, like, my friends were doing things, and, like, I thought, oh, I should know how to do this. Like, they're doing these things. They already know how to fill out a FAFSA. They already know how to do this. Their parents actually talk to them when they come home, and they, like, communicate and have full conversations, and I'm over here, like, I don't know. I'm just doing this on my own. Like, even though they were there physically, mentally, emotionally, they weren't available for anything. When it did come time for me to go to college, they wanted me to take a year off and stay home. That was really confusing for me. I thought that was my goal. Like, I thought that's what you wanted. And really, after my brother and I talked about it, they wanted me to stay home to take care of them, because he wasn't old enough to drive yet. And I was like, oh, shit, I never thought of that. But it was very confusing. So I went off to college with these ideas, like, this is supposed to be a huge deal. Nobody else in our family went to college. Like, this is awesome. I made it here, and instead I'm there, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And so I dove, and I didn't have emotional support for me. And I was just like, you know what? Screw this. Like, I'm just going to party. And that's what I did. I started partying. My grandfather passed away. That was one of my safe places. My grandparents' farm, they had horses and a lake and four-wheelers, and I could go out there and be free. And that, I think, started my love of being out in nature and near water. He passed away right before I left for college, got cancer, and it swiftly got into his brain. And I went off to college with my best friend, who I played sports with in high school. We got to college, and at Thanksgiving break in our first semester, she died in a drinking and driving accident. And that one crushed me, like, because she's the one that helped me fill out my college application. She's the one that helped me figure out how to do life. She's the one that taught me that life could be okay outside of my house. And we had a lot of fun, and we got in trouble together, and we did all these things. So when she died, like, I felt like my world was over. Like, that was my bright spot. And again, they turned to alcohol and drugs, and I don't want to call them relationships, but they were like situationships more. I don't know. It sounds a little classier than what they really were. So I used all the avenues I could to try to escape the pain. And when that didn't work, I came back home, and I guess I was around 20 years old. My mom decided she was going to try to leave him and get her life, and she only got away from him for a few weeks, and then he found her, and he shot her and then shot himself. And my brother and I found them 2 days later. So by then, life was already hitting pretty hard, and by then I didn't really understand the point of really even being here or existing. Although I never really took any steps towards, not being here. Like, I thought about it a lot. I thought about what was my purpose. I thought about what is the point of everything, of existing. I had a lot of deep thoughts at a young age. About 23, I got pregnant, and I had my beautiful daughter, which was pretty cool. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be this great mom. I'm going to do everything my parents didn't do. I'm gonna just be amazing. A week later, I was sitting at the bar, drunk as could be again. So about 25 is when I first entered the rooms of AA, and that was in 2005. That was my first touch with any kind of 12-step or recovery. Nobody in my family ever went to any kind of recovery. It was never talked about. We drank hard. We played hard. We were blue collar. You know, that was kind of how I was growing up. And you just took life as it came and did the best you could. And it wasn't working for me. So got to AA, got sobered up, met my first sponsor, and someone that turned out to be my best friend. We were the exact same age, but she had 5 years sober. And I was like, how does somebody get sober at 20 years old? Like, did you even get started? Like, that was my thought. We hit it off right away. Now, I will say, like, even then, it was hard for me to open up. When I came into the rooms there, I felt like, like an abandoned, scared dog, basically. I would come in, I'd sit in the back of the rooms with my hat down. I wouldn't talk to anybody, don't make eye contact. They knew not to hug me. They would be like, hi, Crystal. I'd be like, what the fuck do you want? Like, excuse my language, sorry. Anyway, it's just that's how wounded I was when I got here. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust the world. I didn't know where to go or what to do. But I sure wasn't going to let you know. I didn't know any of those things. So I was like, I got this. Okay. So I'm in AA for a few years. I'm doing all the things. I take the suggestions. I'm working the steps with a sponsor. I move in with my grandmother, take care of her. She had Alzheimer's dementia. She passed away. And this wound opened up. And I was just like, oh, this hurts really bad. I guess this is grief or something, you know. And so I went to another program called Al-Anon. And I was in there, and I was like, okay, well, this should help. And so I'm there for a while, and it did help in a lot of areas. It helped me see things in a different light, just like AA did. And I was in there for a while. So I also lost another grandparent, and I was at her bedside. So, like, I have no living grandparents or no living parents. And as I'm going through that, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm like an orphan. Like, I never really saw it that way because I'm a grown-up, and I'm like... Anyway, I thought I was a grown-up at 20, but I go through those programs. I guess about 5 years into my Al-Anon and AA, I'm still just not okay. I'm just like, things... Actually, I got the dates here because I get confused. So it was around 2012 was the first time I had heard whispers of ACA. And I was like, man, I don't know. I heard some stuff and, you know, rumors. There was no meetings over on our side of the river. I'm from Illinois, by the way. And there was no meetings. There was nothing going on. And what I had heard was pretty scary stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I need that, really. You know, you might need it, but mine wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And so I did order the yellow workbook. And my Al-Anon sponsor at the time agreed to go through it with me. We started on step 1. We went through that. We went to 2, and I'm like, man, this feels weird, like, because I didn't have feelings. I was completely numb. I was the one you wanted in a crisis, but not if your shoelace broke, because like I did not know how to manage those little things. But if it was a big travesty, like I knew what to do. I would could turn it off and know exactly what to do, who to call, what order to go in. So we did that. I got to about step 3. I think I was started on step 4, and I was just like, nah, I don't think I really need to do any more of this. That was enough. 1, 2, 3. We got God. We're good. So I stepped away from it. That was also around the time my brother had called me. He had lost his 6-month-old son to SIDS, and I went down to be there for him, not realizing how it was going to affect me. I had no clue. I just wanted to be there for my brother, and I had told his... I don't know why I did it. He asked me to, and I said no, but held this baby, and again, everything inside me it was like a switch. It's like a switch goes off. Like, I can't feel, I can't show up, but I can pretend like I can show up and have a smile. You can open that. You're making me anxious over here by not opening it. It's like, is she going to do it now? Is she going to do it now? So, yeah, my brother asked me to hold, because I had never met this baby, and so I did. And when I did that, like sometimes I say something broke in me, but it didn't break in me. My PTSD shut it down because it was too much. It was like, okay, this is another too much more than we can handle. And in that, I was around, 2012, so I didn't know what happened then, but I'd already started like mentally relapsing in my primary program that I was in. And so emotionally I was showing up, but that's it. I was showing up at, where I needed to go. They'd be like, "Are you going to come to your home group?" Oh, yeah, I guess. "Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that?" Sure, I'll be there. Like I was going through the motions, but it was not in here. So here walks in another person, another something else for me to focus on, and I get married. I mean, that sounded like a great idea after everything, and that didn't turn out well. I ended up getting divorced shortly after. So about, I guess it was 2020, I came back in. And I knew when I came back to the drinking program that I had to face this stuff that was going on, that my life was never going to be okay until I actually, what I call my darkness or demons, whatever you want to call it. It was just like this force inside of me that would not let me go. And I knew I had to do something about it. So I was in the beverage program for a while. I got back in and got my sobriety. And then got to see my best friend again. And then around November of 2022, about 2 years in, my best friend, who had like 23 years sober in the other program, had attempted to take her life. And I was, again, like I was so lost. Like I was just starting therapy at that time. I had just started kind of tiptoeing around the meetings. Like I wasn't sure I wanted to hang out with you guys yet. And so I was just kind of circling like a vulture. And so when that happened, it was like a clear sign. I feel like my higher power was like, you need to go save yourself. Like, because I was all about saving everybody else and never trying to save myself. And after her attempt, like her mental state was not in the best. And I know she wouldn't mind me sharing this because she shared it on social media, and she was a very big advocate for, mental health and any kind of recovery. So when that happened, she just wasn't the same. I'm getting triggered. I'm starting to realize that I am getting triggered, and I immediately just kind of go on lockdown with everybody. Like I shut out everybody that was in my life. I was like, it was kind of like I was just saying, I need a damn minute, please. I can't breathe. And as well-meaning as they were, it was like they were pouring gasoline on a fire that was lit, and I didn't know where to go. Like I was drowning, and they're throwing out these life preservers, but they're not even close to touching me. And that's when I dove into my therapy. And I really didn't have a choice anymore. Like, it was coming up faster than I could even, like, look at it. It was like, I would go to therapy, I'd be like, dude, like, this is happening. I don't know what's happening. And so we're unpacking this stuff as it's coming up. And I had some friend in another program tell me, they're like, there's such thing as digging too deep. And I'm like, yeah, there's also such thing as dying because you don't look at what's coming up, too. Like, I can't afford to not look at this anymore. And for me, that's how desperate I was. I was not in a position where I wanted to keep being of service. I couldn't do it. Like at the time, I was involved in some committees. I was involved in a lot of things on that side, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So I did what I needed to do at that time to take care of myself. I created all these boundaries, and I started looking at this and really healing, like sitting with these emotions for the first time in my life. And at the time, I didn't realize I was already starting to do some ACA work because I really hadn't been coming and sitting in these meetings and staying. So I guess it was around June of 2023 is when I finally committed. And that is when my best friend passed away. She did survive the attempted suicide. She ended up having a stroke from the complications of the medications she was given, plus the autoimmune disease she was on, and so she had a stroke. And on that day, like, I felt like my soul just like got sucked out of me, and that's the only way I can explain it. I don't really know how to explain all my emotions yet, but I know I got a text, said she was in the hospital. And next thing I get a text, they're like, yeah, she's not doing real good. And I'm like, so I'm trying to get dressed and see where I need to go, and even if I could go, because like I said, we weren't really talking at the time. And so And then the next thing I get a call, and one of my friends is like, yeah, she's not going to make it. They have her on life support. And I just let out a cry like I've never cried before, and to the point where my daughter was scared, like she'd never heard me cry. And not like that anyway. But I hit my knees and I prayed, because that's what I've been trained to do. And I just asked God. I was like, God, this hurts so bad. And he's like, I know. He's like, give it to me. And I was like, but it's Deirdre. Like, this is my best friend of 20 years. It's, taught me how to live life. And he's like, yeah, give her to me. And those, as I swear to you, it was like clear as day in my head. And so I did that. And after that, I showed up for some things for her to be of service. There were some memorials, some things like that. And then I slowly started walking away and putting myself first, because for me that was kind of like the important thing. Like, okay, if it's not now, you're not gonna be here much longer if you don't take care of this. And so I started coming around to meetings, and I have learned so much in these meetings. And again, I was not comfortable at first hearing the things that people talk about around ACA. I remember going back to my therapist and be like, they talked about sexual abuse. She's like, I go, I did not like it. And she's like, well, that's because you were sexually abused. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I can go back there. And these were our therapy sessions after every meeting. Every meeting I go to and I go back to therapy, I'd be like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. So, and we called this the bridge, because she said a lot of times people who are in previous programs have a really hard time crossing over to this ACA. And I was just hanging out on that bridge for like months. I'm like, okay, I might go back over there, but I want these people to come with me. And it was like, I couldn't have both. And it was just like when I got sober, like my drinking people didn't want to go get sober with me. They're like, see ya, deuces. And it was the same way with this. And I had to let go of that idea. And there was a lot of grief involved in that, because I wanted those people to come with me, but I knew I needed to go here, but I didn't want to go by myself. But I'm not by myself anymore. So some of the things I have jotted down here too is, because of joining this program and because I get to listen to my inner children tell me what they need today, I've been able to do so many cool things that I was never able to do by trying to just be disciplined and do the right things. Like, I had to love myself into being able to take these actions. So, like, I was able to, I quit dating and all that back in October of 22. I've been able to quit smoking since May. This past December, I started eating healthy. I'm like cooking for myself. Like, I don't even like to cook. I really don't even know what's going on in my kitchen right now. It's like, I used to watch cooking shows when I came home from school, and it's like, I'm giving my inner teenager some leeway, because she didn't get to do a lot of things. And so now we're in the kitchen, we're just like making stuff. I'm like, that doesn't sound good at all. But I'm like, okay, let's try it, I guess, It's just food. So, like, this week as I was preparing for this, like, God has been preparing me my whole life. And so I normally don't get that anxious when I speak, because I've done it in other programs, and I always look at it as an opportunity for God to show what he's done through me. And I truly believe that today. Like, nothing I've done in my life, I mean, I've taken some actions here and there, but I do believe that God's given me what I needed and when I needed it. Like, especially this past week, it's been crazy. Like, my brother and I had our first conversation about things that happened at home. It's huge. Like, most of the time we get together, we just joke and act like we're little kids again. And so this time I was like, dude, I'm not that person anymore. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, dude, I don't want to just joke around with you anymore. Like, I want to, be able to talk to you about stuff. And I was telling him about this work I was doing in therapy, and I haven't told him about ACA yet, but he sent me a message this morning and telling me how proud he is of me and that he loves me and all these things. And I was like, holy shit. Like, we don't talk to excuse my language again. We don't talk to each other like that. We rib each other, we make fun of each other, we joke, we have a good time. We always have a blast. But it's like that survivor stuff, it's like we don't ever really talk about what's going on. And so he's growing too. And so it's been pretty cool. And then earlier this week, my daughter sent me she asked if she'd come over and talk, and I said sure. And she sends me this video. I guess she's struggling, but she sent me a video about praying and asking God for help and this and that, and it just made me feel so good. It's like God has shown up for me all week long. I have a job where I travel, and I was at a church yesterday, and I've been to several churches. This is the first time anybody's asked me if I wanted to pray. I was like, please, yes. Like, everybody's probably like, whoa, slow down. But I was like, yeah, let's pray. And then, so we prayed, and we talked about some stuff, and it was just like, this whole week is just, God's just been showing up. And when I ask him for help, he puts people in my path that are going to help me and guide me. When I hit my bottom, that was something I was going to read. When I hit my bottom earlier last year, the year before, like I reached out to a friend, and she knew about ACA. She had been doing ACA, and she had a therapist, and she gave me her number. And I called that lady, and she was amazing. Like, she knew about this program. She knew about the other programs. She helped guide me in several other areas. And then I've also done a little EMDR here recently, and that's been very helpful as well. So there's all kinds of tools out there, and I tried to soak them all up because I need them all. And my fellow travelers. Like this morning, I woke up very anxious and a little overwhelmed, and I haven't felt like that in quite a few weeks. And so I have a group of ladies, and I was texting, I was like, it's the first time I think I've ever said, hey, I got some shit. Like, usually I go to my therapist, and so like that was kind of big for me, and that's why I kind of changed my tool to asking for help. There was something that caught my attention on page 72 in the Big Red Book. And this is kind of like talking about bottoms, because it was confusing for me too when I first came to ACA. It was like, what's a bottom look like for an ACA person? I mean, I've felt it, but I still sometimes don't know how to put it into words for people. It's basically like I just smashed up against a wall, and I laid down on the couch and said, I'm done. That's pretty much how I felt. But I like the way they describe it in this paragraph. It says, because their survival behaviors tend to be approval-seeking and socially acceptable, the problems for children of alcoholics remain invisible. The authors write, many limp into adulthood behind a facade of strength. They survive adulthood too, but many do not enjoy it. And then this other paragraph I like. It says, learning to survive or develop resilience are admirable traits. However, in ACA, we learn to go beyond mere survival. We strive for true healing and connection with a higher power through the realization that we have worth and that we are lovable just the way we are. However, the process of recovery takes time and patience. This is not easy. And patience is not easy. Sometimes I tell God, I'm like, okay, let's just feel it all so I can get to the happy part of life. Like, I don't want to keep feeling this. But I've also learned now that I went through some of the big emotional stuff, and now it's just kind of like a maintenance. It's like, oh, okay, you're sad. Let's talk about it. And I actually did some non-dominant handwriting this afternoon after I got off work, and because there was still some stuff just swimming around in there. And some of it is still grief, and some of it is they're still sad about the people we don't have in our lives, but they're excited and scared about the new people in our lives because we don't really know what it's like to let people love us. So that's a new feeling, and that's scary, and so we just have a little chit-chat about that, and I reparent them with love. I also got to do something that I've never done before, and that was like a skit with a fellow traveler. We did a little skit on a stage in front of people and bright lights. Luckily, the bright lights mean you can't see people. I can see all of you guys, by the way. And that was a lot of fun. And then I've also kind of made a thing like where I sit down and I do this journaling thing. I kind of call it Coffee with Mom, like once a month, because there's a lot that didn't get to be said between us. And so this way I kind of get to say, like the last one I had, it was like I got to be a grown-up version of myself and talk to her about some things. And it was actually very healing. So just journaling and having coffee and writing and reading are really big tools of mine also. But yeah, so that was one of my things I wanted to share with you guys. Really just talking things out with fellow travelers. And I think that's it. I'm just really grateful to be here and grateful you asked me. Oh, I went way longer than I was supposed to.
No, you're supposed to go till now. Great. All right, thank you. That was fantastic. Thanks for listening to our recording of the West County Speaker Series here in St. Louis, Missouri. For more information on meetings in the St. Louis area, visit www.acastl.org.